This is the new Giant TCR Advanced SL Disc, the latest in a long and venerable line of bikes that effectively rewrote the book on how road bikes should look and feel. Now, I was lucky enough to ride the predecessor to this one when it was launched back in 2016, alongside a pristine original TCR from 1997. The two bikes clearly shared the same DNA, but a lot had also changed between the two. Now, almost unbelievably, a lot has also changed between version 8 from 2016 and this one, version 9, which is lighter, it's more versatile, and it's been optimized for improved aerodynamics. Now, unfortunately, we're not able to bring you footage of this bike being ridden owing to the current coronavirus situation, but rest assured, we have big plans for this bike just as soon as we're able to. Permit me a quick recap, if you will. The original Giant TCR was launched in 1997 to a cynical cycling public, which sounds strangely familiar, and they were shocked by its bold and distinctive design. So shocked, in fact, that the UCI were called in to check whether it should be legal. Really does sound familiar, doesn't it? The reason for that shock is principally this sloping top tube, which still looks distinctive now, but back then had only ever been seen before on mountain bikes. Now, Giant had employed the services of a maverick bike designer called Mike Burrows, who saw significant advantages in that compact mountain bike design. Firstly, a smaller frame could be made lighter, but it could also be made stiffer, and yet not at the expense of comfort, because that long exposed seat post there could offer loads of compliance. But it wasn't just that. It was also the fact that this compact frame could simplify the buying process, because more riders of different shapes and sizes could find their perfect fit on fewer stock sizes. Because again, that long seat post offers loads of adjustment, then you can just simply swap out stem lengths to suit. Now, this is something that we take for granted now, and unless you've been riding bikes for the last 20 years, you would have no reason to ever think that this seismic shift took place, and that it was Giant at the helm who'd taken a giant leap. Which brings us back to the here and now, the new TCR, this being the advanced SL Disc model. Now, Giant's goal, let's say, was to make this bike even more efficient than its predecessor. In their words, squeezing more speed out of every pedal stroke. To do that, they have dropped the weight, but kept that insane stiffness to weight ratio, and they've improved the aerodynamics. And very easy things to say, but actually to achieve means going back and starting almost from scratch. Fortunately for Giant, they can literally do that because they have their own composite manufacturing facility. They have created a brand new high-performance carbon fabric for use on this bike. Plus, they're continuing to use their own resin, which they've added carbon nanotubes to. The next step was investing in laser cutting machinery to enable them to cut the carbon fiber prepreg with incredible accuracy. Really important on the smaller sections of carbon prepreg for the more complicated sections like tube junctions. Ultimately, it means weight savings. Then the final step, and I think perhaps the coolest one, because I've never heard of it before in the bike industry, was investing in robotic layup assembly machines. So normally, as you'd see here on GCN, when carbon is being made, it involves skilled labourers placing individual swatches of carbon prepreg fabric in a mould by hand. It's a pretty good process, but it is of course open to human error. And so in addition to quality control, you also have to factor greater tolerances into your design. With robots though, there's no such worry, and so Giant have been able to use them to save further weight at key junctions, which typically would have to be slightly over-engineered. Now, carbon fibres don't really like being bent. And yet, when you look at something like the bottom bracket shell, you can see clearly it's not possible for long continuous fibres with no bends. And so this new system, which places with laser precision smaller swatches of fabric more accurately, could be a significant step forward. The final step in manufacture, which is also pretty significant, is lighter paint. Yeah, lighter paint. Although when you look at this one, and you see that beautiful carbon weave showing through, it doesn't really look like it's got much paint on anyway, but I'm told that a properly painted one is 50 grams lighter. In total, Giant have stripped out 140 grams from this frame set, which includes all the hardware and of course that integrated seat post. But mysteriously, this spacer apparently weighs 5 grams more than its predecessor. Not sure why. All that then means that this frame set weighs just 1,266 grams, lighter, Giant say, than all its rivals bar one, the Trek Emonda, and it's just 16 grams heavier than that. Bearing in mind it's the lightest production frame set in the world, that's not bad. Giant also say that they think it's less stiff and a lot less aero. Ah yes, aero. Now this is an interesting one. Giant have looked and redesigned all the tube shapes bar the seat stays, they say, which don't affect anything aerodynamically anyway, because the air is so turbulent by that point. They have more cleanly integrated the disc calipers and the forks, that brings some small gains. And they've also got an aero-influenced cockpit, they say, which doesn't resort to being a one-piece integrated design. Now for many riders, that's going to be a welcome touch. It gives you the ability to tune the fit of the bike more easily and more affordably, whether it's swapping out different stem lengths or handlebar widths or even handlebar shapes. But it's actually a bit of a nod to the ethos of that original TCR. And in a similar move towards ease of ownership, Giant haven't fully integrated the brake hoses, so that should make the bike more serviceable and easier to travel with. Finally, in another nod to real life, Giant have also designed the aerodynamics of this bike to work around a rider carrying 2 water bottles. As you can see, they are shielded behind this enormous down tube. Some might say, Giant down. All right. The wind tunnel testing for this bike was undertaken using a complete bike and also a dummy rider who is a 3D printed Grisha Neerman. They must have had him knocking around for quite some time because the real Grisha Neerman retired from pro racing back in 2012. Now, the 3D printed Grisha Neerman can still move though, and so in many respects, he is an upgrade over a flesh and blood cyclist in that when he's in the wind tunnel, he's not going to suddenly flinch and then ruin all the results. Anyway, in these conditions, Giant say the TCR leads the pack over similar lightweight aero-optimized frame sets that are kind of part of this new breed that are snapping at the heels of full-blown aero bikes. Finally, and I think excitingly, is the pursuit of efficiency when going downhill and around corners. Now, I don't think manufacturers often talk about how well a bike handles, but perhaps they should, because no matter what your power to weight ratio, we can all get thrills when going downhill. One of the big things they've done is improve the fork stiffness by 35% in fact, and Giant have been at great pains to stress this, and I'm glad they have, because while a stiffer fork doesn't necessarily guarantee faster cornering, I think it can lead to greater confidence and certainly prevents understeer. The last point about handling, but also ride quality, is that Giant have increased the clearance on this bike so it will now fit 32mm wide tyres. That is quite a departure from the Mark I TCR 23 years ago. Now, of course, wider tyres mean you can run lower, more efficient pressures, but also you're not confined completely to tarmac. And if that's you venturing off onto bumpy stuff, then you'll also be pleased to hear that these Cadex wheels come set up tubeless. So that is your new Giant TCR. Lighter, more aerodynamic, more versatile, and I think as absolutely gorgeous as ever. I'm a big fan of this silhouette. A big fan. Anyway, let us know what you think in the comments section down below. Is it a nice or a super nice? Hot or not? Get stuck in the comments, and please give this video a big thumbs up.